What's up, you drug-doing, sex-having, soon-to-be-killed teeny boppers? We are Thralls of Metal with another thrilling episode of Real Metal. I will be portraying Rin.
And I will be playing the part of Necrotic Nick.
And we're going to be reviewing the soundtrack to a touching movie about two ranch hands who fall in love. Nope, that's a different movie.
Different movie, okay.
Heath Ledger, Jake Gyllenhaal? No. Different movie. Freddy versus Jason.
So this was pretty much the matchup that horror fiends like ourselves have been waiting for entirely too long, honestly.
In the 80s.
It felt like it should have happened in the 80s, and then again in the 90s, and then we kind of forgot about it. And then holy shit, it's happening! Yeah. And it came out with a pretty awesome soundtrack. And this is a really cool soundtrack in the sense that this is 20 tracks on here, but 14 of the tracks at the time were all unreleased. And if you're like me, the big collector in terms of music in general, we'll just say that, seeing a soundtrack with a bunch of exclusives on it is a hell of a fucking draw. Because most of the time, if I saw a soundtrack, like, ooh, sweet, it's for a horror movie, it's about to have metal on it, look at it, and there's all shit I have. I'm like, well, back to the fucking shelf.
Yep.
This did not do that. Now, this came out on the 12th of August in 2003, and the movie came out on the 15th, so nice little gap there just to promote it. And this came out on ROADRUNNER Records, and, well, there's a lot of ROADRUNNER bands on it. And this came out at an interesting point, and 2003 was kind of a year where things started flipping in terms of popular trends in metal. Nu metal had pretty much been king for maybe too long. Pretty much through the late 90s and the early 2000s, that was what most was coming out in terms of popular metal. Now, boiling on the surface was this rabid metalcore scene that was coming up, and kind of a rebirth of just kind of groove metal that wasn't infected with DJs and rapping. Like, this was back to being metal. And I kind of saw it when I went to Ozfest 2003. Granted, there was a lot of nu metal there, but we also had bands like Shadows Fall, KILLSWITCH Engage, Devil Driver, that all kind of had a very different sound. It didn't sound like nu metal, and this was kind of an interesting, shaping up in terms of what was coming in the future. And this soundtrack kind of embodies it, but in both cases. You hear nu metal stuff that was kind of on its way out, a lot of the second-tier bands, and these budding younger bands coming up and, about to take over.
Some of the newer metal bands, you have KILLSWITCH Engage with the first time we heard Howard Jones as the vocalist, which When Darkness Falls is probably one of my favorite Howard era KILLSWITCH songs. It's just hell of a chorus.
Oh god.
Hell of a
giant
song.
Giant riffs too, and of course stupid huge melodies.
Yeah.
To this point, the only thing we heard Howard Jones sing was just a different version of Fixation on the Darkness, which was cool. Like, hey, we got to hear this different vocalist do an older song. This was a fresh new song for an album that was going to pretty much blow people away the following year.
And it did.
And it did.
Yeah. Then you had a nice Chimaira B-side. Chimaira was about to do their second record, I believe.
Yep.
Yes.
Impossibility of Reason.
And obviously, that was a banger. Still a fantastic record, and I miss Chimaira.
Yeah, I actually do miss Chimaira. I really wasn't sold on Pass Out of Existence. Like, it had its moments, but Impossibility of Reason was all moments. That was such a killer album, and one of those albums that kind of helped me get out of the nu metal phase, mainly because they were kind of nu metal. Yep. And then they pretty much just said, fuck it, let's just be metal as fuck.
Yep. And then Lamb of God, who was coming up in the ranks, you had an album track on there, 11th Hour. Hell, throw it on there. It's towards the end of the album, so you got the fresher stuff first, but that's tip-top Lamb of God when Randy was just barking about something because you couldn't understand what he said.
I didn't even care. Yeah. That was off of As the Palaces Burn. I love that album. It's still raw. It's still uglier than hell. That is kind of the Lamb of God I prefer listening to, just in terms of like their earlier stuff when they were still hungry and there was no like hope in terms of like at least their outlook of getting on the radio or anything like that, because fuck that. We're just going to play metal shows and play them well. And when it came down to the majority of the unreleased tracks on here, a lot of them did come out on albums later, but there was some stuff that were just unreleased B-sides on here, and stuff that people were going nuts over. Namely, Slipknot's Snap. I remember during this time, actually it was probably a year or two earlier, everyone was going after every torrent for this track just because it was a Slipknot track, and we hadn't heard it, and that was enough. And honestly, I mean, it's a fun track, hella repetitive. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's gonna snap, and snap, snap. Maybe a crackle, maybe a pop. But it's a 97 demo. I think this is possibly the only place to find it in terms of a CD version until I think the reissue of the first album. But yeah, people were going absolutely nuts for that. And members of Slipknot made multiple appearances on here because Corey also shows up on Inside the Cynic by Stone Sour, which honestly is one of their heaviest songs.
Yeah, it's the more aggressive, less melodic side of Stone Sour.
I believe that track was only available in Japan for a while. And then we had a track from the Murder Dolls, which was Joey Jordison, rest in peace.
Yep.
And his, oh God, how do you describe this,
Horror,
man?
rock,
Yeah.
shock, pop, punk, core.
It sounds like a Wasp cover band. I'm not a fan of Murder Dolls. I really wish I was, just because I could say more cool things about Joey Jordison, but I'll say that he was an amazing drummer and musician.
Yep.
It just really wasn't that showcased on here. Just sort of an odd track, but I mean, with the horror vibes and being on a horror soundtrack,
Yeah, it works.
it works. And then if you want another almost cover band, you have Seether's Out of My Way, which they made it quite a career sounding like Nirvana, and they kind of continue with that, just maybe albeit a bit heavier and screamier.
One of the gems on here is Sepultura with one Mike Patton doing a song called The Waste. I think Max was out of the band at this point, but there was a Cavalier involved, and yeah, it was kind of 75% Sepultura that we knew.
Yeah.
But Mike Patton. And yes.
I love this track. Honestly, this is one of my favorite draws to actually coming back to the soundtrack, because Mike and Derek Green harmonize really well.
Yeah.
And I was surprised that Derek Green was doing mostly clean vocals on here, and Patton is just ranting and raving about what you need and what you want and what you really, really want. And it's not like Spice Girl shit. It's Patton doing Patton, but really, really well with Sepultura. Like, they're kind of bringing back a little bit of that Roots vibe in terms of like the more tribal percussion. It's an odd, dark, creepy track for a dark, creepy movie.
Look Away Part 2.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then Hatebreed, when Hatebreed was firing on all cylinders with a song which I don't understand why it wasn't on Rise of Brutality or any album for that matter, Condemned Until Rebirth. A 2.5 minute punch in the mouth.
I mean, that's pretty much all Jamie needs to let you know exactly how he feels when he's angry. This isn't like positive.
There's no PMA in this.
It's like, I don't like that guy. Fuck him.
Elbow him in the jugular.
I want to see him spit teeth
out of his ass.
Wait, how did those get there? Okay.
Yeah.
I think that song was actually a B-side from Perseverance, and honestly, if I went back and listened to Perseverance just to hear it compared to this, and it almost sounds more like a demo, which, I mean, the Chimaira song Army of Me is actually a demo from Impossibility of Reason. So it was kind of cool they threw in some demos on here just to give you a little bit of just extra nuggets. But Condemned to Rebirth is flat out whoop ass. If you love Hatebreed, you may have never heard this song, but you already love it. I'm pretty sure of it.
Yep.
And in terms of a band's first offering, and honestly, for me, I didn't even know who was in this band when I heard it. Devil Driver, Swingin' the Dead.
Swing the dead, swing the dead.
How the fuck did I not figure out that was Dez at the time? When I heard this, I was like, oh, well, I mean, this sounds heavy. That voice sounds familiar. And this was still really fresh in terms of the Coal Chamber breakup, because that happened, I believe, either early 2003 or late 2002. And lo and behold, here's this band called Devil Driver, and it's notably different. It still has a little bit of the nu metal hangover going on, but it's heavier. It's darker, and it's weird. And again, I didn't know who the hell this was up until Devil Driver came out, and I saw Dez sporting mutton chops. And he had good mutton chops.
Yeah.
But interesting song, and again, this was kind of a cool thing with soundtracks. You get to promote stuff that hasn't been released yet, and there was definitely a fair amount of that. And this did promote some stuff that would come out the following year or later in 2003 that would be, well, at least good in some facet, namely Killswitch Engage, and A Heartache blew the fuck up, as it should have.
Good record.
But also in October of 2003, Mushroom Head came out with their album 13 or XII. I don't know. I don't know if they knew it was 13. I don't know. It was weird. Yeah. But the song Sun Doesn't Rise was on there as the lead-off single, and it's Mushroom Head.
Yep.
I used to be a fan. I didn't mind this album so much, and it's got some weird guest stars, namely Jens from Meshuggah is actually on a track, which is an odd pairing. But I don't know, like every time I hear this song, I'm just thinking, it's like, man, these guys really tried to be spooky Faith No More.
Yes.
And, well, you got spooky, I guess.
I don't get it.
Jeffrey Nothing's vocals are strange.
Yeah.
Yep. Those vocals have not aged very well, at least for me.
Hey, they had fans.
They had, actually probably still have a lot of fans, even though I think there's like 2 original members left. But it's hard to tell because they're all wearing like stuff.
Yeah. Not as cool masks as some other masked bands.
And it is kind of funny, they're actually on the same soundtrack with Slipknot, which they had that beef with. Well, you know, they got along, at least on here, probably because they didn't know they were both on there. It's like, what, that band's on there? Fuck this shit. Well, I'm not going to take my song off, though.
One of them was probably Team Freddy, and one of them was probably Team Jason.
I think it's kind of hard to peg which one's which. I don't know. With Mick Thompson in the band, you got to think they got to be Team Jason.
You don't want to fight him.
No, he's still big and scary.
Yes. And you got Typo Negative making a spooky appearance, as Typo is certainly good at. We Are Electrocute from the album Life Is Killing Me. I mean, it's not my favorite Typo Negative, but it's Typo Negative, and I love Peter Steele.
This is the spooky we love.
Yes. So give me more of that and less of the mushroom guys.
And of course, there's a lot of other tracks in here. Some of them, I don't know, like just in terms of, well, showing up in there. All right. The lead-off track is El Nino's How Can I Live, which was probably the biggest single they ever had. It was off their second album. El Nino, again, like this was the tail end of nu metal, and this was one of the stronger candidates coming out in terms of who was going to lead the pack next. And it didn't necessarily work out as big as the single seemed like it was going to get. It didn't seem like it took off very well.
Hell of a chorus.
Yeah. And then we had a song from an album that I don't believe officially ever came out with Powerman 5000's Bombshell from the album Anyone for Doomsday, which didn't come out because Spider pulled it like about a week before it was released because he didn't like it because it sounded too much like Tonight the Stars Revolt. Which, I mean, he was right. This is just a generic industrial rocker. It's danceable.
It's not bad.
It's a Powerman 5000 song.
Yeah.
And then you have a pretty cool B-side from Sevendust, which, I mean, I love Sevendust. They do kind of write the same stuff, but it's Sevendust, you know, give me a syncopated riff and Lejean's amazing vocals, and I'm not going to complain much.
They have a great song.
Yeah. All 4 songs?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
But, yeah.
Big chorus, big hooks, big melodies, syncopated chugs. I mean, you know, Sevendust does what Sevendust does very well.
Morgan Rose smacking the piss out of the drums. Yeah.
And then even just to remind all the metalcore up-and-comers where they got a bulk of their sound from, they had In Flames Trigger, because that song really blew up for them off of Reroute to Remain, which remains a very divisive release with a lot of In Flames fans. There's definitely a point around that album where people saw kind of a slide in terms of quality, and the whole old-school melodic death metal sound started dying out in favor of whatever the hell they're doing now. Yeah. I don't know. I don't listen to it because I love my early In Flames. Yeah. But honestly, this song, still not bad.
Then you have From Autumn to Ashes, After Dinner Payback. I think you're supposed to wait 20 minutes after you eat for payback.
You get a cramp.
Yeah. No, not for me. No.
There was metalcore I liked.
Yep.
And there was metalcore I didn't, and generally the metalcore I didn't involved big emo-y vocals.
I still to this day don't understand, out of all the different vocal techniques you can use in aggressive music, why do you choose the voice?
Because crying's an emotion, and I was sad and angry at the same time.
I have feelings. Yeah, so does Phil Anselmo.
Yeah. He buries them in beer and cigarettes and yelling. I like that song up until the point
The chorus.
Is that the chorus? I don't even know.
I don't know.
The chorus.
It's the point where I turned it off.
Yeah, I was like, no, get back to the growling.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to hear that.
You
know, Warped Tour was also big around the same time as Ozfest, so
it's for the kids.
Yeah. And then again, in terms of like the new metal leftovers, you had new tracks from Spine Shank and Nothing Face, which I believe both those albums had already come out, and I really liked those bands at the time, but you could definitely tell they were kind of fading just in terms of what was coming up, like what was catching people's attention. Beginning and the End is a solid single, and you know it's catchier than hell. And Nothing Face's Ether, I think Nothing Face were super underrated for the time. They kind of got lumped in the new metal pack, even though I think they did a lot more. They were more like just weird groove metal and dark. Always fucking dark as hell. But again, like listening to this, it's just kind of that odd thing, like I can hear the transition in terms of like what the next trend in metal was going to be, and then what was kind of on its way out. But overall though, I kind of still like this soundtrack. Like there's still some really good songs here, and really good ones that you can only find on here because they threw all those unreleased tracks. Now granted, over time a lot of these bands did like special edition releases where you could find those bonus tracks, or you know, you were fortunate enough to get like the Japanese copy or something like that, or a UK copy that had all those extra tracks on it. But it was kind of cool to find them all here on one place, and it accompanied a pretty decent movie.
It could have been worse.
Yeah. And you know, the movie itself, like, mostly the only thing I remember is the fight in that weird fucking caterpillar scene with the stoner kid.
Yeah.
And that's honestly about it. Like, the plot was kind of, I don't know. I mean, they knew what they had to do. We had to get this guy and this guy in the same arena.
Yep.
Now we just have to think of a plot to build it around there. And, you know, it may not have been the best, but it did get them the fight, and the fight itself is actually pretty damn cool.
That is good.
And, you know, special effects for the time, pretty decent. Yeah. But honestly, I think I remember the soundtrack a little bit more just because of all the tracks that really stood out to me that I couldn't find anyplace else. So overall, I'm going to give this one 3.5 stars. I like this. It was kind of, again, like, I knew what I would get into next, and there's a really good launching point for a lot of that stuff. Like, I was fiercely big into that Lamb of God album. That new KILLSWITCH Engage track fucking blew me away. Actually, I have 2 copies of End of Heartache because that album's fucking awesome, still.
Yep.
And yeah, it was just great finding all this stuff on one place. And yeah, solid soundtrack. I'd strongly recommend this one. I mean, especially if you're still a big metalcore fan and you still have like a little bit of love for new metal, it's pretty much all here.
Yeah. I'm at a 3.5 as well. Awesome Chimaira, awesome Hatebreed, solid Slipknot demo you never heard, Stone Sour, Devil Driver, Mike Patton with Sepultura. The bad songs out of 20 tracks, there's only 4 or 5 songs skipping. Maybe listen to once and you're like, yeah, I don't want to do that again. But the good stuff outweighs the bad for sure. Movie's solid.
Yeah.
I believe Kane Hodder would have played a much better Jason, but you know, I'm a fan.
I think you kind of just need a big guy.
Yeah, I don't know.
I like Kane though.
Yeah, yeah. Get it if you haven't heard it. If you like those bands, you probably heard these before. But yeah, together at last.
So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up, and if you are new to the channel, subscribe because we do stuff like this all the time. We're also on Patreon. If you would like to help us out there will be a link down below. And if we haven't hit the mark yet, which it's distinctly possible we might have actually hit the 7,500. And for that, I say thank you to everyone. I say thank you to everyone anyway, because you guys are all fucking awesome. But if we haven't, and this comes out and we're still just at like, you know, 5 subs away, then get in on this giveaway. All you have to do is click the link down below, comment on the video, and you're entered to win a stack of 8 CDs, including the new Cannibal Corpse. If it has already gone on, I'm sorry if you didn't get in on it, but there will be other giveaways in the future. We also have t-shirts available. We're kind of limited on sizes right now, but if you send us an email at thrallsofmetal@gmail.com, put shirts in the message and we will get back to you. And if we have your size, we would love to sell you a shirt. So with that, thank you all for watching once again, and we will catch you later.
Welcome to prime time, bitch.